Hey guys, welcome to Everything Virtual Assistant. This is part one in a series of everything that will help you hire and grow a virtual assistant team of your own, or just hire and grow and have one virtual assistant. But this is a four-part series. We're going to talk right now today about what is a VA and why it makes sense to use one. We're going to talk about how to find and hire a virtual assistant step by step, what technologies to use while working with your VA, and onboarding for maximum effectiveness. So today, let's start with what is a virtual assistant and why it makes sense for you to hire one for your mortgage business. So a VA, a virtual assistant, is an office administrative professional offering remote administrative, technical, or creative support to a loan officer, and including making outbound phone calls, answering calls. We're going to talk about everything a VA can do for you in just a bit, but I did want to emphasize the word remote. So these are assistants that work remote. They can work anywhere in the United States, or they can even work in the Philippines. And we'll talk a lot about that, the opportunities of virtual assistants working in the Philippines. So I don't know about you, but on a daily basis in the mortgage industry, we've sometimes know this feeling. So there's so much to do, scheduling appointments, checking emails, managing our calendars, working on our CRM. The list goes on and on forever. And it feels like the tasks never get done. And so I don't know if you've known this feeling. I know I have. It brings me to something Carl taught years ago, and that is half built bridges. And what I like about this picture is it's not only about half built bridges. It's you could build a you could build a bridge, you could start a strategy and get 99% done and you're still not complete. So what ends up happening is you haven't completed that strategy and there's no money coming back. And then we start another bridge and then we start another bridge. And it feels like we continue to start all these different strategies and we don't finish them. And so delegating out certain tasks and strategies is what will help complete those. But on the same hand, delegating out the busy work to a virtual assistant will allow us to stay focused on our main things, which is prospecting and building these strategies and finishing them. So that's that's the good news. It doesn't have to be stressful. It can be easier and it can be better by hiring a virtual assistant. And in many cases, at about $5 an hour. So we're going to talk about that over the next few courses here, or part of this series is how we can get a virtual assistant at $5 an hour that gets so much done for us. It is amazing. So I look forward to going through all of this with you guys. So, what are some of the benefits of hiring a virtual assistant? They can complete a lot of tasks at low cost. So, we talked about that, $5 an hour, completing a lot of tasks. The thing that's exciting about it is because they're working virtual, they are working usually out of their home office and they have complete silence. They don't have a lot of distractions. If we talk about virtual assistants that work in the Philippines, they definitely don't have distractions because it's overnight. They work the night shift. So let's say they work 9 to 5 Eastern time. They're going to be working about 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Filipino time in the middle of the night. So there's no distractions. So they can get a lot of work done. They free up your time for you to make money making phone calls, prospecting, building relationships, doing the things that help you grow your business. So they free up your time to do that because they're doing the busy work. Help you delegate tasks that you don't want to do. So I always think of this when I do a overview of what needs to be done, what I want to do, and what I don't want to do. And we're going to do the triad of awesomeness activity on the next video. So that's going to be pretty exciting. But what I always like to look at is what are the things that I do not want to do? and who can I get to do those for me? And it's kind of like Carl always says, just because I don't want to do it doesn't mean this other person doesn't want to do it. It might be their biggest exciting tasks that they do for the day or things that I just don't want to do. So help you delegate tasks that you don't want to do. The range of skills you can find in a VA is limitless. So it really depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for somebody that can make outbound phone calls, somebody that can operate, learn, and run your CRM, and we're going to talk about all the different things a VA can do, but it's limitless with the amount of skills that you can find of a virtual assistant to do for you. So why a virtual assistant versus an in-house assistant? And there's pros and cons to both. There's great reasons you want an in-house assistant. There's also really big reasons you want a virtual assistant, because usually a virtual assistant you're going to get at a cost a little bit below than having somebody in-house, because they don't have to drive to work, they don't have the extra expenses to get there and so forth. So, and then if you choose a virtual assistant in the Philippines, it's much cheaper because the cost of living is so different in the Philippines that $5 an hour to them is a lot of money. They usually make about 2 hours, $2. I said 5 hours, I meant $5, but they usually make about $2 a day if they work somewhere in the Philippines. So the cost of living is very different. But a VA versus an in-house assistant, you don't have to have extra phone lines. Now, if you have Ring Central, you do want them to have access to it if you're going to have them either make outbound calls or handle incoming calls. But you don't have to provide a computer. They provide all of that. Internet access, they provide that. No additional desk space because you're not having somebody in-house. They don't distract you from your 80/20. They actually help you focus on your 80/20. And for those of you that aren't aware, 20% of what we do gives us 80% of our results. So if we focus on that 20%, while the VA is doing all the other busy work, then we're getting super focused on what really matters in our business. So there's no payroll taxes with an international VA. And the reason is that VA is working as a contractor. So they'll send you a marketing expense at the end of every 2 weeks. And we'll talk about this, but they'll send you a marketing expense, and that will be registered as marketing and not an actual employee. So it's kind of like a contractor marketing expense. So no payroll taxes, no unemployment, none of that. No office supplies. They provide everything they need themselves. So you're not coming up front with all that. So some people say, well, I really can't afford one right now. And I love looking back at you can't afford not to. I always think of Carl talking about the vending machine. If there was a vending machine at the back of the room, and for every $1 you entered into that machine, $100 bill came back for you, how often would you use that machine? I mean, me personally, I would just sit there all day and use the machine. So it's kind of like that with the virtual assistant. Is good assistants are free. They bring in the money. So the return on that investment is awesome, especially when you're talking about a virtual assistant that works for you, possibly in the Philippines, where you're paying $5 an hour, and they're providing you with so much return on that investment. And we're going to talk about what a VA can do for you and how they can not only help you focus on your money making activities, but they can double you. So you're going to be doubled, which is really pretty cool. So if you spent more of your time meeting with realtors, meeting with referral partners, talking to your database more, focus on growing and expanding your business, leading your team gives you more time to do that. And then, of course, strategizing. So when you have a virtual assistant handling, let's say, your incoming phone calls while you're on a 2-hour time block strategizing your business, it's going to get you much further quicker. So you're not worried about those calls coming in because you have somebody answering the phone and and it enables you to do more of your money-making activities, if that makes sense. So what can you have your virtual assistant do for you? And we talked about a few of the items, but let's talk about it real quick. Calling realtors and setting coffee appointments. I had personally have a virtual assistant that sets 10 appointments a week for coffee appointments for my LOs. Now, 10 appointments set a week. This is not just setting the appointment and then the LO goes on the appointment, but the virtual assistant actually sets the appointment, sends out the reminders via text, via email, schedules it in the loan officer's calendar. Everything is done for you. So the loan officer and myself, all we have to do is show up at the appointment. The realtor has already been reminded, they confirm everything. So that's one of the strategies that a lot of loan officers in MMA right now are using to have the virtual assistant help them. Also calling past clients, and this doesn't mean that you don't want to do that. You want to still continue to call your past clients, but why not double yourself and also have your VA calling past clients or even old lead lists, current client follow-up, old leads, looking, just kind of filtering through and looking for people that have their hand raised and they can set an appointment with you. So if they call for 2 hours a day, scheduling realtor appointments, and then time block them an hour of doing some other CRM work or something, and then another 2 hour call a day, setting appointments with potential clients, old leads, realtors, past client database. They can call on so many different types of phone calls. This receptionist duty, this is one thing that I love having my virtual assistant do, and that is answering incoming calls, especially if I'm in time block. So if I'm in a time block of making outbound calls, I can't be answering incoming calls because I'm focused on making those outbound calls. So having a virtual assistant answer my incoming calls, or if I'm on any type, if I'm on a realtor appointment, if I'm meeting with a referral partner, or I'm even in a, like I said earlier, if I'm in a 2 hour time block of strategizing, I'm focused on what I'm doing without the worry of phone calls coming in. Not only that, preventing every phone call from hitting voicemail, because studies have shown like 89% of realtors or potential clients, if they hit voicemail, they're going to call the next loan officer. If they talk to a human, they talk to somebody, then they're more apt to wait for that callback because they did talk to a human. So answering phone calls when you're unavailable is an amazing strategy. And it's so simple. Literally, if you're using your cell, you just forward your call to that line that your VA has, and those calls get answered while you're busy. Emailing and text blasting, the VAs can do that. They can do your Thursday text. They can send emails. They can build email campaigns. They can send a weekly tip to realtors, and whatever you want them to do, they can set that up. Calendar management, this is a big one because we all need help with running our calendar. So running our calendar to the point, we've had loan officers in the Freedom Club and the MMA who have had their virtual assistants call them every time they're scheduled to start a time block. Like, don't forget, right now you start your time block of calling realtors, or you have an appointment at X coffee shop. Sending reminders, reminding the loan officer, helping them stay on their calendar to stay focused. Really important. CRM and database management, helping build out your CRM. Why not have a specialist that helps you do that? And that's what that VA can be. Definitely very helpful. I have a virtual assistant that runs my entire CRM for me, and she learned it. She taught herself the CRM, and then she taught me what needed to be done, and then she implemented it with her ideas on what would help best. So helping build out that CRM, having a specialist do that is definitely worth it, especially when you're talking about $5-6 an hour. Realtor list research and building. If you want a VA to help you build out your qualified agent list, they can definitely do that. Social media management and content posting. What a better way to have consistent social media presence by having your VA do it. And it kind of falls in one of those things where things that I don't want to do. One thing I don't want to do is learn how to do a Facebook ad, because that changes every week, it feels like. And it's not as simple as they make it seem to be. So instead of me spending hours and hours trying to figure that out, I'll just have my VA do it. I tell them exactly what I want. I want an ad to go out to all my top realtors, the qualified agent list, and I want the ad to just say basic blah, blah, blah. And then the VA puts it together, sets it up, and gets the ad running. So graphic designs, flyers, brochures, open house flyers, things that you can help your realtors with. Your VAs can do all of that. They know how to build out flyers, and whatever you need them to do. They're going to either learn how to do it, teach themselves how to do it, or they're going to already have experience. And we're going to talk about how to make sure you get the right fit VA down the line. So on the next call, or I'm sorry, the next training. And the list goes on and on and on. There's so much more you can have a virtual assistant do. We have some loan officers that actually have their VAs do the busy work on the processing. Now, there are some fine lines where you want to make sure your VA doesn't have access to pertinent information. Some people do, but every company's different on what they allow. So there are other tasks like running VOEs and verifications and things like that. And people have their VAs do that. So, but you say, I'm a control freak. My clients and referral partners will only talk to me. I've heard that before. It's not true. It's really how you set up, how the conversation that you have with your referral partners and your borrowers. And then more important, or just as important, is the scripting that you have your VA use. So I like to ask, do you talk to your doctor about billing? No, you talk to somebody else on the team. So it's not always about them wanting to talk to you. So the Dr. Butler script, Richard asked me to call you and tell you ... So basically, I won't go all the way into Dr. Butler, but what it is it's a script that somebody's going to use on your team. No matter who it is on your team, they're going to call, hey, Realtor Jane, this is Ashley with the Richard Smith team. Richard asked me to give you a call, and he wanted to meet with you, blah, 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 blah. So you're having them make those phone calls on your behalf, and it feels like I'm standing there with them saying, hey, can you give them a call? So you always want to have them use that Dr. Butler script. And then the scripting that you as a loan officer use, Joyce is my partner. She specializes in this and will help you with, especially if you have a loan partner and you really want to sell them up, and let them know that they are a specialist in what they do. So it's the scripting that you use when you're talking to a referral partner or a borrower, and they're going to hear from a virtual assistant or an in-house assistant. And it's important to always upsell your team to everybody that you work with, and your team will always upsell you. So it's upselling them is so important, not just for your realtor partners or your borrowers to hear, but for your team member to hear, because you want them to know how much you trust them, and you want them, it's kind of like in most cases, Carl talks about if somebody can do a task or work for you at 80% or is 80% as good as you, then you want them to do it, right? And we've all heard that. What I've always said is most of the time, if not all of the time, the team members that are doing those tasks are better than me at it, because they're focused at it. They're not being distracted. They're doing it consistently day in, day out, and they get better and better at it. So always, always, always upsell your team. Have your assistant create a how-to book. This is just a quick tip that I stuck in here, and we're going to go on to the next class shortly. But every time they learn something or they teach themselves a task, or let's talk about the CRM. Let's say you have them learning your CRM, they're going to build a how-to booklet while they do that. And that's with any task or any strategy you have them do. You have them build a how-to book, because now you have that for yourself or for your next assistant or for somebody else on the team, and you have them that how-to booklet built out. So that is how to find and hire a virtual assistant step by step, is what we're going to talk about in part 2. How to find and hire your virtual assistant step by step. And we are going to talk about that coming up. Look forward to it. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you soon.